Escape from Tarkov. Wow, they burned that community goodwill like it's made of frickin' flash paper. They've got the community all like,
what the hell is going on?
So for those who don't know, Escape from Tarkov is essentially what you think of when you think of the extraction shooter genre. It's definitely one of the most popular games in that genre, and all the goodwill they've built up stands to crumble like a house of cards because of the way they've been handling their new edition, which they're selling for $250. So we got a trailer right here for it. It's called the Unheard Edition, and here's the trailer just to give you an idea for what exactly it offers. Here we go. So that's the important one. Play offline with friends. This feature is exclusive to this edition of the game. And this is especially what a lot of people are pissed about. But beyond that, as you can see from the list of features, there are definitely elements to this that are pay to win. This edition that's $250 will grant you tangible advantages if you purchase this package. But there's also an element of people who purchased a previous edition being promised that future DLCs would be accessible to them without extra charge. Those people are discovering that they have to essentially shell out an additional $250 to get stuff like the offline multiplayer. And all of that will be detailed in a bit. I just want to make sure you guys see this trailer so you have the full context of what people are criticizing. There you go, that's the trailer. And you can see from the likes to dislikes ratio how overwhelmingly negative the reception has been. Only 5.7 thousand likes versus a whopping over 50,000 dislikes. Going to the official Escape from Tarkov pre-order website, you'll find all of the details surrounding this edition, the stuff that was highlighted in the trailer. And you can see right here the asking price of $250, which is rather ludicrous for a game that is still in beta and has been in beta for 7 years now. This game launched in beta on July of 2017. I mean, that is roughly the price of $3.5 $70 AAA games. They're charging a heck of a lot for a game that technically isn't complete yet, isn't fully out yet. But for hardcore fans of the game, they're willing to let something slide as long as the developers express a certain level of gratitude towards the community that made the game what it is. And part of the controversy here involves a previous edition called Edge of Darkness, which was discontinued in January and promised that buyers would have access to all future DLC through a season pass. And yet the numerous perks that the Unheard edition includes is not something that those who purchased Edge of Darkness will get, which is why a lot of people are labeling the Unheard edition as pay to win. This is blatant. You get a giant head start in front of everyone else. This edition, along with the PvE mode, is not included in Edge of Darkness. And I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that's on offer here, increased starting level of character skills, expanded PMC pockets, additional equipment and resources, increased fence rep. I mean, yeah, this guy has a point. This is stuff that will definitely give you a gameplay advantage in a competitive multiplayer environment. So that's a huge broken promise right there. So right now, the Reddit is on fire. On Twitter, you can see that in response to this trailer, people are not only ratioing this tweet, but also tweeting things like, I think it's a slap in the face to every Edge of Darkness owner to release a better version years later. Every single Edge of Darkness owner should automatically gain access to this version because that's what was promised. You can see right here using Wayback Machine that the Edge of Darkness edition promised free access to all subsequent DLCs for the $150 that it cost to get prior to its discount. And what is essentially a brand new mode like offline PVE progression, that is downloadable content that should have been a part of this offer of making that all accessible for free to those who purchased the previous edition. And yet, those folks, some of the initial supporters of this game, are being made to spend another $250 to access this feature that should be available to them. And then here's the insult to injury. The development studio, Battlestate Games, responded, and the justification they had to give was that the offline PvE mode is not technically DLC, but rather a unique feature which is available only for the owners of the Unheard Edition. They basically said that they get to decide what is considered DLC and what isn't. They get to distribute that label to the content that they release, and based on that, they get to decide whether the promise of all future DLC getting transferred over to purchasers of the previous edition gets to be fulfilled. I mean, just the fact that this game that's in early access is charging for editions that are $150, $250, that's already egregious enough. But the fact that they're willing to screw over the hardcore fans who are willing to partake in their monetization tactic and not keep their promises and making it about semantics in terms of why their promises aren't being kept, like, of course, that's going to generate this level of backlash. It didn't take long before they got community noted on Twitter. New game modes are generally accepted as DLC if you put them behind a paywall. In other words, the developers don't get to define what is DLC and what isn't based on what's convenient for them and their business model. DLC is DLC. Content that is downloadable content, which is precisely what this new game mode is. This offline PvE mode is a brand new feature. It is new content, a new mode that you download as an additional part of the game that wasn't there before. Therefore, it is by definition literally a DLC. And them labeling it as not DLC but a unique feature does not change that fact, which is why another community note reads right here that not only is this DLC, but you straight up said that those who purchased EOD or Edge of Darkness will receive free access to all subsequent DLCs, which should include this PvE mode that is just straight up DLC, no matter how much Battlestate Games tries to say otherwise. Battlestate Games then made matters even worse by trying to focus on accusing another game of a similar type, that is, of a similar genre, of plagiarism amidst this backlash, saying, have a nice 20-minute adventure in the blatant plagiarist game, in and out. This is in response to this game taking advantage of the Tarkov backlash to try to get people to play their game, tweeting, taking in all homeless shooter looter with a big wave goodbye to Tarkov today. We're here to welcome you to Kimona. For Battlestate to think that they can garner community support given the situation that they've created for themselves and how much the community feels like they've been screwed over. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking with prioritizing this when there is a fire in their own house that they have to put out. They got community noted yet again with video games cannot be sued for plagiarism for simply being a same or similar category or genre. BSG or Battlestate Games would need to prove that assets were taken from Escape from Tarkov and used directly in AB or Arena Breakout to begin legal claims of copyright infringement or plagiarism. It didn't take long for this tweet to get ratioed with responses like, you guys have no room to make any tweet about this, shut the F up and get off Twitter. Here we have one of the most liked responses stating, 20 minutes is still 10 times as long as I last against cheaters in your game. You're doing great. 14,000 likes versus the mere 2.9 thousand likes of this Battlestate Games tweet. Here we have somebody else saying, for whatever reason, it's saying I can't see this tweet unless I pay another $100. Any other Edge of Darkness account seeing that? I cannot overstate how pissed the Escape from Tarkov community are about the situation, especially because Battlestate Games keeps doubling, tripling down on this straight up lie that the offline PvE mode is not DLC. Going to a Reddit response that they provided to the situation, they kept labeling the DLC content from the Unheard Edition as new unique features, and then they had the audacity to try to make this offer that only serves to add pepper flakes to the wound, stating that the folks who've purchased the Edge of Darkness edition will get all of these additional elements alongside access to offline PvE, but only for 6 months to those who own the Edge of Darkness edition. Just temporary access to a downloadable piece of content that was promised for free as something that they would just be receiving at no extra charge with no strings attached. And on top of that, they offered temporary access to high priority matching for 6 months. High priority matching being a feature that makes it easier for people to matchmake with others, so it takes less time. The fact that people who've been supporting this game have to pay for that kind of privilege is something that is not going down well either. Some of the top responses to this Reddit thread include 6 months, temporary, are you on crack? Dude, 6 months, what do you mean? Are you joking? Give us permanent access to the DLC you promised us you would. And some people feel that it's absurd that priority matching is even a thing, that the higher you pay, the more of an advantage you have at the opportunity to get into matches, which is kind of just not even pay to win, it's pay to play, you know what I mean? Or pay to play in a way that isn't disruptive. So yeah, suffice to say that that response didn't go down well. So Battlestate Games followed up with another response the following day on April 27th, 2024, when they tweeted this Reddit post that quadruples down on this silly notion and this false idea that the PvE game mode is not DLC, stating that DLC in our understanding is the major additions to the game is Offline PVE, which is a brand new game mode that didn't exist before, that clearly is coveted enough that people are expressing complete admonishment over the paywalling of this mode that was promised for free to those who purchased the previous edition, not a major addition to the game. They go into further detail as to what their own definition of DLC is, stating that it's stuff like functionality and content that are released after the official release of the game as a themed DLC pack, Scav Life DLC, for example, which will add a lot of new mechanics and content for Scav gameplay and leveling. Even within this definition, a brand new offline PvE game mode is a significant new functionality and piece of content. Just because the developers have a very specific idea for what a DLC should be doesn't mean that the DLC that they release that they don't want to label as DLC is not DLC. Just like how just because EA wants to call loot boxes surprise mechanics does not make them not loot boxes. Now, they did provide an explanation for why they can't give everyone access to the offline PvE game mode, citing technical reasons, stating, quote, "This specific functionality of the PvE mode is necessarily located entirely on a separate network infrastructure. You play on our servers only in closed mode. At this stage, it is not possible to launch all players who are Edge of Darkness holders. Right now, we simply do not have the required amount of resources for this." I mean, I don't know, from what I can gauge, this game is monetizing pretty well and is ballsy enough to charge $150 to $250 for editions of a game that isn't technically officially out, that isn't at 1.0. It's hard to buy into the idea that they don't have the resources for this, and even then, you made the promises that you made. You charge $150, letting people believe that if you spend that money, all content from here on out, you won't have to pay for anymore. $150 is all you have to pay. That was the promise that you made, and so that's on you. Now, they try to assuage the situation by saying that we observe your dissatisfaction and have decided that the functionality of the PvE mode will be available for free to all owners of the Edge of Darkness version at the release of the game, when the server infrastructure will be improved to the required capacity. So not during beta, but after the game launches officially, after it goes 1.0, which who knows when that might be. The estimate right now is that Escape from Tarkov is expected to leave beta and fully launch sometime in 2024, likely late 2024. But that's not a sure thing. It is an expectation, but that could very easily get delayed for any number of reasons. We're still in the dark as to when the game will officially launch, and therefore, even with this offer, we're in the dark as to when Edge of Darkness purchasers will be able to gain access to this PvE mode functionality that is very much new content that can be downloaded, and therefore it is DLC. Another offer that they made was a 50% discount to those upgrading to the Unheard Edition from the Edge of Darkness edition, but half of $250 is still $125. That's still a lot of money. They make another silly offer in the form of offering a free Left Behind Edition key to everyone who's already purchased or upgraded to Unheard Edition at the old price from the Edge of Darkness edition. So for those who weren't able to take advantage of this 50% discount that came in later, but that is such a useless offer. You're giving people a free key to an edition that is essentially an inferior one from the Unheard Edition, that is basically Unheard Edition but less features. That is $82. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Give it to a friend? But that doesn't alleviate the fact that promises were broken as to what Edge of Darkness purchasers would receive in the future. And then one last offer that they make is giving players the ability to purchase a separate early access to this mode, and for Edge of Darkness owners, a 70% discount for the purchase of early access to PvE. You making the content that was promised for free cheaper does not change the fact that you're still charging for content that was promised to be free, and it doesn't change the fact that that promise is still being broken, just to a lesser extent after the severe backlash that you're now trying to do damage control over. At every turn throughout this debacle, it feels like the developers have put out the worst response possible, especially with their insistence that the offline PVE mode is not DLC, insisting that that label cannot be applied to what is downloadable content, insisting that it's just new functionality, which is content, and therefore it is DLC, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, they've just burned bridges completely, burned goodwill utterly, and even their Discord right now apparently is functionally unusable and a catastrophe as it continues to be flooded with spam decrying battle state in the game. There's clear universal feedback that's being applied to this situation. Offer offline PvE for free. It should not be paywalled in any way, shape, or form. It is scummy to do that in the first place, and it's doubly so when you promise people who purchase your last $150 package that they're going to get stuff like this for free, and you applying your own definitions and labels to what DLC is and isn't is just not going to cut it. Completely walk back on this. Give everyone access to this functionality. If you have to take some losses and whatever, money, resources, you name it, I mean, you got to take the hit then. And you got to realize that this is about the long game. If you want Tarkov to thrive, you need your community. And this is a game that is so popular that you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, financially in the long term, you'll live. Be straight with your community and give them what they want. Give them what they deserve, frankly. Like, that's the only way out of this. Otherwise, expect the backlash to continue. Expect trust to continue to break down. And if trust breaks down, that means that for your future endeavors, people are going to be apprehensive about participating. They're going to be apprehensive about supporting you, and it may lead to much more long-term damage than could have been done had you just backtracked right now on this. And then, of course, don't try to pull something like this again. This is extremely greedy stuff, and greed at this level will always surely backfire. And, I mean, what better way to highlight that than the community reaction, the most hardcore community members who have been with you since the beginning, who are willing to shell out $150 for your last edition. Just do the right thing here. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this whole escape from Tarkov situation and what you think the developers need to do to rectify all of this. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.